very good evening and a warm welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us. We're coming to you from the Kampala Serena Conference Center, Nile Room. And tonight we'll be talking about legal security for rural, urban, vulnerable women. So the importance of marriage security to rural, urban, vulnerable women through customary marriage registration. My guest this evening, this show actually is done in collaboration with the Uganda Registration Services Bureau. So my first guest, Charles Nsimbi, who has been on the show a number of times, is here. He's the manager of civil registration at URSB. Thank you, Charles, for coming.
Thank you, Josephine.
And my next guest needs no introduction. Halima Namakula, thank you so much for coming to the show.
You're so welcome.
All right, let's say it as it is. Once again, thank you for joining us. Charles, you're the expert on these registration matters. And I wanted us to start off with an explanation on the different types of legal marriages that there are in Uganda, so that whoever is watching knows where they fit.
Thank you, Josephine. Yeah, I'm becoming quite regular around here. Yes.
We're not complaining.
You shouldn't be. This is, and you've chosen a topic which is women. My favorite, since I'm that way inclined. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So marriages, legal marriages. There are 4 legal marriages acceptable in the country. The first one, which is the most, let's say the most common one, are the religious marriages. There is Muslim and Hindu and Christian. Christian marriages actually fall in a category known as, excuse me, civil marriages. So a church is licensed and the priest or reverend or pastor becomes a registrar of marriages, and therefore the marriages celebrated in that church are legal. So that's 3. Muslim, Hindu, civil, which includes Christian. The 4th is customary marriage. There's a research that has just come out for national identification for NIRA, which says that customary marriages are the largest form of marriages in this country. They are over 60% of all marriages are customary marriages. The funny thing, Josephine, is that we don't think that customary marriage is a legal marriage. What is customary marriage? Customary marriage is when you go for kwanjula, kuhingira, nyom, you know, if you are up there. If you are in Karamoja, when they throw that spear and you take all the cows this side, you know,
it is done.
That is done. Okay, so that is, most times when we go for a kwanjula or kuhingira, you hear people saying, now when is the wedding? Not actually recognizing that customary marriage is a legal marriage, albeit it is potentially polygamous. Perhaps that's why most ladies may not want it. But it is a legal marriage, and it offers us all the rights and the responsibilities of a married person once you register it, and it is registered at the Gombora.
Okay, so our focus today is going to be on customary marriages. So we're going to sort of ignore all the others.
Yeah, sort of.
Yes, when I say customary marriage, so you do the kwanjula or whatever you call the ceremony, and then what happens? When do I get the certificate? When is it registered? Is it registered automatically by the fact that it has happened?
No, unfortunately not. You need to go a little bit back. Customary marriage originally was brought as an ordinance called the Marriage of African Natives in 1900, because when the white man came, obviously he found that we were getting married. People in the 1800s were getting married. Our grandparents were getting married, but they were doing it traditionally. So to legalize that, they made the ordinance known as Marriage of African Natives Ordinance, which was regularized by Parliament in 1971 into the Customary Marriage Act. Now what it says is that the marriage will take effect upon registration, because you realize that all the other marriages actually are celebrated by a registrar. Okay? Either the church has been licensed and the priest is a registrar, or you go to the DC or URSB where there is a lawyer who is a registrar, or you go to the mosque, or you have a nikah at home where the imam is the registrar. But customary marriage is not celebrated by a registrar, so it requires registration. So upon your kwanjula kuhingira, after you've done all the ceremonies, because it says it has to be done according to the norms and customs of the lady. So when I come to your place, Karunji, I have to do the norms and customs of Karunji. Is that Congo or something like that? Okay, anyway, that's what, if you came for my sister in Chanamkaka, then you have to do the norms and customs according to the Uganda. And once that has been fulfilled, that's the evidence you take to the sub-county. And the sub-county chief will put that marriage upon scrutinizing the evidence, put that marriage in a register book, and issue with a certificate of customary marriage, which is signed both by you, your spouse, and 2 witnesses.
Okay.
And then it is a legal marriage.
It is basically a marriage.
Yes.
All right. So we said legal security for rural, urban, vulnerable women.
That cuts across. It has got nothing to do with the elite. It's got nothing to do with education, but there are very many people who are in relationships and believe they are married. Actually, after a while, people come up and say, I've been with this guy for 20 years. We built this house together. We have 3 children. And they actually naturally call you Mrs. So-and-so, and they call him Mr. So-and-so. That's where the vulnerability comes from.
Okay.
So that's what we want to cure. That the easiest thing that can be done for that person who is in a vulnerable position, because there is no documentation, is to document what they did, the traditional ceremony which they did.
All right. Well, Halima, you work very closely with women,
Yes.
especially women at the grassroots, and I wanted to know if you could paint a picture for what the situations usually are like for them.
Well, I've been around for a long time, and I've been around the world, I would put it that way, because I am Ugandan American. Overseas, when you stay with someone for 6 months, and you can prove that you have been living together for 6 months, you married. So if anything happens, whatever is left behind is yours. That's
so
how it is.
You can prove with bills, shared
Well,
bills.
shared bills. Also, even your family would know that you left their home. But in Uganda, or I would say Africa, we used to just leave the home. You leave the home, you go and live with the man, and then you have several children. And after having several children, the man dies. When the man dies, there's nothing left for you. Gwe wazala buzazi. That's what they say, you know. But the thing is, if you are living with that man, you practically, you know, it's like you are married to that man. You know the man. You know everything that is in the house. So to me, you are together. But most of the women in the rural areas, what they complain about, like, oh, my husband died. When he died, you know, he didn't leave me anything. The family came and took everything because all we did was kwanjula. Kwanjula is the same of what he was saying. And as for Muslims, they do the nikah. The nikah, you are married right there. You are married. So doing the wedding, that's something that you have to do for people, but you are married. And if you are to leave that man, you have to get a talaka. I think that's a divorce. Yes, you have to get that. So most women out there, they're not educated about it. Even if they get a nikah, they will still say, I'm not married to him because they didn't have the wedding.
Currently, we are seeing an interesting trend, which is useful to us, whereby cultural institutions are issuing certificates for those traditional ceremonies. That would prove that you've fulfilled the norms and customs to wed. Okay? So very many people will go to Bulange in Uganda and buy the certificate, or in Toro, or in Usoga, they will go to Prime Minister Muvawala, is Dr. Muvawala. They will get the certificate, and they think that that's a marriage certificate, but no, you need to take that to register, because that is
take
proof.
It to URSB or one of your centers?
To the sub-county and register it.
Right. So some of the reading I was doing, and they say payment of bride wealth or dowry, then they also mentioned that this is a potentially polygamous marriage.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. It's regulated by custom, but subject to the Constitution.
Absolutely.
It is heterosexual.
Yeah.
Okay. It's subject to the requirements under the Constitution. The parties must be above 18 years.
Yeah.
Halima, when you're out, do you see younger women?
You know that I've been having campaigns about, against fistula. Because most of these young girls that get married at a young age, they are the most at risk to get the fistula.
Right. So if a child is married off at maybe 16, is that recognized? It is not recognized.
No, actually, that's the opportunity.
Okay.
You see, a lot of people have been doing customary marriage, okay? without registration. In other words, there is no interface with government. Someone gets the dowry, or the parents are broke. We have seen it in the newspapers. NTV have covered stories where people are so hungry that they will sell off their daughters for food. They do that because there is no requirement. Nobody is registered. Because the moment that went to officialdom, if it went to the subcourt, then you would intervene. You would have the opportunity to say, no, this child is underage, this marriage cannot be. But because we are not registering them, that's why we are talking about vulnerable women.
Okay.
Because
Josephine, can I ask something?
Yes.
Okay, the girl is 16. The mother is saying yes, and the daddy is saying yes. Can a person at Muluka say no?
Is there a whistleblowers platform that you have for instances like this when children are underage? Because I see here again, parties must have freely consented to the marriage.
Absolutely.
Equal treatment of the parties at marriage, during marriage, and at its dissolution. Is there like a platform? So if I am an aunt to a 16-year-old being married off, do I whistleblow? What do I do?
No, obviously, right now with Whistleblower Act, you are able to do that. Unfortunately, because these things are done in the urban, in the rural, whatever setting, and whatever, not very many people are going to do that. And remember, if a family is starving or something, they are all party to that, and they know what will happen. That's why it is so important that, you see, if they could register, if we are compelled. And once upon a time, this used to happen. People used to go to the Gombora even for baths and do it. Was routine in the 60s and the early 70s. It just died out. Once it becomes a routine thing, then you cannot do it. Because the moment you take this, you remember I said the certificate is signed by spouse, husband, wife, and 2 witnesses. There's no way you will go there when you are underage, you're 16, and the certificate is indicative, and the sub-county chief is not able to take action on that. You wouldn't even dare to go there. So there would be practically no ability to have that wedding, to have that marriage, so-called marriage.
If everybody was as honest as you.
No, if everybody had to go to the sub-county to register it.
If all the people at the sub-county who are as honest as you and able to hold, things like this, where money exchanges hands
and you register it in the register book with the 16, then you have just taken on the responsibility.
But you don't really say she's 16. You elevate her to
18. 19. Now that's I mentioned earlier that this was a study done for national identification. That's why now you're going into why birth registration is so vital. Okay. Because then you cannot change your age as and when you wish.
All right.
It's that seat of everything.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take a short break and we'll be right back.
We offer professional barber, hairdressing at Lugogo Mall, Garden City, Forest Mall, Oasis Mall, and Acacia Mall. Sparkle Salon, professional, affordable, and quality services.
Welcome back. We're coming to you from the Kampala Serena Conference Center Nile Room, and tonight we're talking about legal security for rural, urban, vulnerable women. Wanted to take some questions from the audience. Yes, you have a question?
It is evident that customary marriages are the most common in Uganda. So I was asking, if I get a misunderstanding with my partner, what are the chronological orders, chronological steps I can take to dissolve the marriage within the legal framework of the Republic of Uganda's constitution? Thank you so much.
Yeah, like I said, this is a real marriage, and it's on the equal footing with all other marriages. Church marriage, Muslim marriage. Now, Muslim has its own methodology of tarak, which is very hard. I understand. You have to stay with someone for some months before. But customary marriage, originally in the Act, you were supposed to use the traditional methods of divorce, which included, in most cases, return of dowry. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, there was a case recently in the Supreme Court, in the Constitutional Court, which ruled that return of dowry is unconstitutional, and therefore made it illegal. Now, that practically removed the method of traditionally or customarily divorcing. However, Josephine has been very clear saying that all these marriages are subject to the Constitution. And there still remains a method of divorce, applying for divorce in a court of law. So you can apply for divorce, like if you are married in church, or like if you are customarily married, you can apply in court, adduce the evidence, whether it is contested or not contested, and the judge will rule and give you a decree, knees first for 6 months, then a decree absolute, and you will be separated, divorced. So you will have to go to court.
I have one of my fistula survivor. She called me last week from Lila, and she told me that she needed some money, to help her. And I said, but you said you are married. What is the husband doing? Oh, the husband is not doing anything. It's me who is doing everything. I said, that cultural, that's something that you do there? And she said, yeah, in a way, because in Moroto, I found women working, bringing in food, like they have a child on the back, and then they have the
ones who build the houses and basically do everything. And
when I think that those are the Karamajongos, I think. But I hired one guy, and I said, I know what you do there, but in Kampala, it's going to change.
You have to work.
You have to work. You have to do a lot of things. You have to cook for yourself. The man did not know how to cook tea, how to boil tea. It's that bad. But after he left, he went with something, because I told him, I said, go back and change the world, change your area, show that you also contribute to the marriage. But to go back to the lady is abused. The husband beats the lady. And I said, well, why don't you get out of it? She said, no, I can't, because I have to give all the cows back. And I was like, hey, the cows? How many cows? Well, there were 100. I said, those are many cows. I said, 100, you cannot be able to give them back. Because I said, how did that happen? That means he was rich. Say, no, they throw the thing that you said, so the person that threw the spear was very strong. So there were 100 cows. So she doesn't have the money for the cows. I said, so are you going to stay there and get beaten every night because the man drinks a lot? And then you're having children because the man, they have the idol, they're not doing anything. So every time he puts in the child, I said, are you going to stay there doing that? She said, yes. I said, why don't you come and we find out somewhere to go? So that's what he has to explain.
Well, first of all, we need to find out whether it's registered, right?
Yeah. Is it a marriage at all? And if it is not registered, that could be an interesting challenge. If it's not registered, there is no proof.
Most likely not.
And the law has already outlawed the return of dowry for exactly that purpose, that it was tying.
But how far do you go deep into the communities? So, for example, to go to Karamoja and say, it doesn't matter if you threw the stick and the spear and you got this number of cows and they exchanged hands, as long as you don't have the URSB registration certificate, this is not a marriage.
It's not a marriage, yeah.
How far do you go into culture?
You see, this is now a mindset issue. And we're working around millennia of thought. This is what they have been doing. This is what their grandparents did. This is what their great-grandparents did. This is what they have been doing for centuries, okay? And the government saying this is not valid really does not change what is in your mind. So yes, we have got a lot of education to do, but it's also an opportunity. It's an opportunity that we are able to even say that, because there's a sub-county chief in every sub-county in this country, now known as Senior Assistant Secretary, okay? So what as URSB we've done is to start with the service providers. And we've done all these trainings from the cows to the sub-county, whatever, and we continue to do that. Because it will be almost not beneficial if we went and explained to the people, but they cannot get the help or the service. If you tell everybody this marriage is not valid until you have registered it, but they cannot register it because the sub-county chief doesn't know or doesn't have the facilities, then you haven't done anything. So we started with the supply side as NTV helps us to get to the demand side, you know.
I'm wondering about penalties.
Mm-hmm.
In instances like this where then maybe it's not in Karamoja, maybe it's even here in Kampala, you're not really...
The GBV, gender-based violence, which is talking about, or if someone did that.
Or if somebody is not, you don't have the certificate, but you've been living together as married for, is there a particular number of years where, like she said, in the
US.
developed world, where you can say 6 months you're married?
No. Actually, that's the most controversial provision, which was in what is known as Domestic Relations Bill. And while we're discussing with Halima sometime off camera, when we're not here, I said the biggest challenge with using time is when do you start counting? When do the 6 months accrue? If you say 1 year, when does it start? The day she first came and made the omelette in the morning, or the day when she first left her stilettos in my house, and I'm not looking at yours. So when do you start counting? You see, that's the interesting thing with the law. The law has got to have a period. It has got to have a start, and then you can say a stop, okay? And as long as you don't have an official start, you run into a gray area where you will have a challenge. But to go back to what you said, the penalties, actually that's why we are partnering with Halima, the vulnerable women. You see, the penalties are actually the benefits you get from registering.
So basically what you miss out if you do not register.
That becomes the penalty. You see, we're now talking about during your lifetime, but it's so much which happens. Should any of you, and we all know you'll die anyway one day, should any of you pass on. Halima mentioned it earlier. In some cultures it is standard procedure. The husband dies, the parents and the brothers will come and say, you know what, we will take our children, this is our blood, you are from another clan, you cannot own this land, it's our clan land. And they're right, it's their clan land. So you don't have a leg to stand on. But we may think that this happens in those tribes. The examples, you cover this news every day. We had the other time, a Afande was gunned down or whatever, and he had a wife and children. But when the state was assisting, who was in charge? The father, when he passed on. Why? It was the father who was calling the spouses, come and I distribute to you. You know? These are things which happen to us every day. So you see, the penalties are in that when someone passes on, then all of a sudden, you do not hold anything. You do not have, yet legally, you're next of spouse, you're next of kin. You're the mother of the children. You're the mother of the children. Yeah. But you see, being a mother of children does not make you a wife. Just like being a father of someone's child does not make you what? A husband. That one is a documentation where you both sign freely consenting over 18-year-old adults, as the Constitution says.
So that means the people in the rural areas need to be sensitized on how to live with someone.
Yes.
You know, and the MPs, I mean, they're educated enough. They can start that thing and take it out of their culture. Not take it out or completely, but sensitize them on how they can do it.
Yeah.
I think that will help, because otherwise we'll stay like this. Even in Kampala, like you said, here in Kampala, they are still living like that.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and there's so many fights after the husband dies, you know, after the wife dies. So now what we have to do is to just sensitize the people in the villages.
We'll pass on that information.
Yeah.
All right. We had another question. Yes.
Sharon at Gonza, Makerere University. The question I have is, are there some things that you consider for someone to get a marriage certificate? For example, if I would ask something, if you're a man and you're a woman, if you have a man and you share some norms, like I don't know how you call it, but it is omuziro in Luganda. You share the same muziro, but you have different tribes. Would you deny them the marriage certificate if they came before you and they needed it, or you would consider that important? Because literally, people say that if you share the same norm or the clan. Is it clan?
Who
Yes,
cannot
if
be
you
married.
share the same clan, that would be
You cannot get
considered as
married.
your relative. But others say if you're different tribes, you can go on and have an affair, and so you would offer them the marriage certificate. I just need some clarification on that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Should I give you a moment to think about it while we take the second break?
Yeah, it's okay.
All right, let's take another break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. We're coming to you from the Kampala Serena Conference Center Nile Room, and we're talking about customary marriages and vulnerable women in rural urban areas. Sharon asked a question.
Yeah.
Charles, I'd like you to take it.
Thank you, Sharon. That's a very good question. Normally, or customarily, we say that customary marriage is according to the norms and customs, okay? So at that level, we wouldn't expect people who are related. I mean, I think we had a couple of years ago, we had some issue about some people in Uganda who were of the same clan, yeah, and were attempting to get married. So they would never pass the test at that level. So customary marriage, I think, is safe from that sort of scenario.
Yeah, my assumption is that family relatives are more involved in customary marriage than any other marriage.
Absolutely.
So they're probably there to say no.
They will tell you, no,
Yeah.
when I was saying things like that, and you cannot get married. However, there is the danger in the other marriages, civil, church, and Muslim. But like Josephine has been saying, all marriages are subject to the Constitution, and there is the provision which is called affinity. You are not allowed to get married if you have affinity, close affinity, blood relations. So if they run bans, and or if for us we put it on a notes board for the civil marriage, and someone knows that these people are related by blood, first of all, you swear an affidavit that we are not related. One of the ingredients in the affidavit is that we are not related by blood, okay? Then someone else can come and object and say, I know them, that they are what? You will not get married.
What if no one does, or what if I don't know?
Again, the law is lenient onto the government side and puts all the responsibility on you, because the law says if you perjure yourself, if you say something which is not true, the marriage is null and void ab initio at the very beginning. So if you came and said we are not related by blood, and 20 years down the line they find out that actually your cousin, sister's brother's auntie was the uncle of the sister of the mother, the marriage will be null and void.
You were never really married.
You were never really married.
Okay.
And it's interesting because even in church, and I speak for the Catholic Church, which is supposedly very conservative, this is actually there. The provision is also taken care of. That's how they do a nullification of a marriage. And you hear people, the Pope has annulled a marriage which took place 20 years. If they investigate and find that, they think. So you are related by blood? You're not going to get married legally anywhere.
All right. Your question?
Thank you. I'm Atise
Do
Caroline.
you want to stand up, Carol?
Atise Caroline from Makele University, and my question goes, if at all I got married in a customary marriage with my husband and then we divorced and I get a new husband, can I again get married again?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. The key is on divorce. If you have legally divorced, there is a difference between separation and divorce. Okay? And we said if we did customary, ideally you should have been able to divorce customarily, but the Constitutional Court has said you cannot return dowry. Okay? Which means you now have to go to the High Court. Once the High Court has ruled that you are divorced and given you a decree absolute, then you are free to wed. Both of you are free to wed anybody else you want to do.
But again, we said the customary marriage is more lenient towards polygamy.
Yes, it is potentially polygamy. That's why that was my next point. But actually, you don't even your husband doesn't have to divorce you to marry another one when you are customarily married, and that is, I guess, why we're talking vulnerable women, because there the law is a bit leaning on one side. It's potentially polygamous because according to our norms and cultures, we were potentially polygamous. We could wed more than one wife. So it allows men to wed more than one wife, while
Not women to wed more than.
yes,
So again, this is where I think registration is then important, because
Absolutely.
if you're registered, he can't really marry another. Can he?
He can. You can
can
register
as well.
You can register as many wives customarily as you want, and that's why the women prefer to move on to the next level,
To church.
to the monogamous one, because the other one, civil or church, is monogamous. And maybe that I will take the opportunity now to explain the interrelation between the marriages. If you did a customary marriage, okay, and he attempted to wed in church someone other than you, the other marriage is null and void. The church marriage is null and void, because the only person he can take to church is you, the person he customarily married, as long as it is still monogamous. Okay.
Okay, so if he's done four customary marriages,
He can no longer do a monogamous marriage.
so he can't take any of them
He
to
cannot
church.
take any of them to church.
How about Muslims?
He can wed all of them, 4 of them in a marriage or in a nikah, because but if he had 5, he still cannot do nikah for 4. He cannot choose among them. I think this is something that has not been very clear, because very many people do kwanjula and they leave it at that point, and they kwanjula another one and they kwanjula another one and leave it at that point, and eventually kwanjula one and take that person to church.
That's null and void.
Null and void, because you have a string. You may not even be living with them, but you've not divorced them legally, so they are legally still your wives. You know, you may have separated, that is a different matter, but if you kwanjula did this one and another one and another one and then ended up with a third. On the other hand, there are people who have, I think there was a story you ran not very long ago, where an old gentleman had 4 wives, but they were just living together, and then eventually he decided to pick one and go to church. As long as he had not registered the customary marriages, you see now the benefits of registration, the others could not object.
So he picked the youngest and
He
said
picked
go to
the
church.
middle. I don't know the middle one. The middle one seemed to have had a secret. So he decided to take the middle one. And of course, all the others objected. The young ones and the older ones all objected. But they had no case to answer, because they had never registered the customary. And it starts upon registration. Legally, that's the starting point. That's day one. It doesn't matter if you did your kwanjula 50 years ago, but you register it today, you are married as of today.
Today, okay.
Yeah.
Another question.
My name is Mangang Gordon from KIU. What is the punishment for those people who witness illegal marriages?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a very good question. What is the punishment who witness illegal marriages? I guess now there you have to advise me, but it goes into the penal code, because you are now uttering false evidence to a person supposed to receive evidence from you, right? Something like that. I'm afraid I'm not a lawyer, but but I know I have read something to that effect. So you are now moving into the penal code, and they will be charged according to that. You cannot witness and swear and sign to something which is a falsehood and get away with it. It is not even particular for a marriage scenario per se. Anyway, even if it's a different agreement, because it's a contract, it's an absolute contract, and you're witnessing to that contract falsely, you would be charged under that.
Because the assumption is the witnesses are usually close friends and family who know
Who
these
witness
people.
the
So
wedding.
they would know
Yes,
that
so-
there's been another one.
Yes,
Okay.
if you did that.
Alima, what are you thinking about this conversation as it is now?
Where I was thinking about what he said, 6 wives. That's exaggerating. You can't. Even the Muslims are allowed only 4 to be married, but not 6. 6, you are doing something, your own thing.
It has no label.
No,
It
it's not
doesn't.
Islamic.
What he asked about, what is the penalty for that, or what I never even heard of that, really. That is something that you should look into and find out what it is. Because when he asked, I said, yeah, then I
There
never
should
heard
be an
of anyone taken to court.
For falsely
witnessing.
witnessing.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
That's true.
That was a very, good question. But I go back to her, maybe if
Sharon.
Sharon, if I can go back. What was the first question you asked?
some important things that you would consider giving a marriage
issuing a
certificate to
certificate.
someone?
Before you get a certificate, that is something that a lot of people, a lot of women, I would say women in the villages that don't know. They don't know what are the steps, you know, because
What
if
is
they knew
required?
the steps, they wouldn't be going through what they're going through right now. So that is something that you should really explain more if someone is watching, so they can be able to know, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do. Because my friend, now I call her my friend, the fistula survivor, if she went through that, then she should know, you know,
be very protected.
Yes, she would be protected. She would be able to get out of it, or to just go to court.
They would do definitely.
You know, but right now she's stuck, and I'm stuck because I really don't know.
She has no documentation.
Yeah, she doesn't. I don't think she does.
She cannot even
Yeah.
sue for divorce.
What are the processes then? So you said earlier that you have the ceremony,
Yes.
and then you go and get the certificate after.
The certificate is signed and issued by the sub-county chief of the sub-county in which the ceremony has taken place.
Is there a fee to pay?
Yes.
Do they need passport
the
photos?
certificate-
What do they need?
Yes, yes. Okay, that's the actual now nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
So when you are supposed to present yourself, you, your spouse, and the two witnesses who were at the ceremony. There, if it is some cultures which are issuing certificates, you will have that, and then the sub-county chief will interview you to prove that the evidence you have adduced proves that you actually had the ceremony, because remember, he was not there at the ceremony. So then after that, he will enter you in the customary marriage register book, which is kept at the sub-county.
And you pay how much?
No, just at that point you haven't yet paid anything.
Okay.
Then he will issue with a certificate, which is where you sign, you and your spouse and the two witnesses, and you will sign and endorse it. That's when you pay. The certificate is 20,000 Uganda shillings, and the registration is 20,000 if it is done within 6 months. Do you see how the law gives you so much time? You have all 6 months within which to register. Though we advise that you register it as soon as possible while the iron is still hot, because the majority of people, we find that after a while they are like, who is going to go back? I mean, I drove all the way to Chandamukaka to get this girl. Now you want me to drive there just to sign on a piece of paper in the sub-county, remember? It has to be, all of you have to go and sign with the witness. So the sooner you do that, the better. If you register it after 6 months, then the law fines you. So you pay 40,000 for the registration.
Okay.
Then the sub-county chief will move the record. That certificate is in triplicate. You get a copy, which is white. The sub-county remains with a copy, which is yellow. And then a green copy is forwarded to the registrar of marriages, so that the UNEB of marriages is aware that you have actually done this ceremony and you have registered, and then you are duly registered. Yes, you do need 2 passport size photographs, which are attached on your certificate.
And you need an LC letter?
No,
You don't need an LC
you don't need
letter?
an LC letter for that
I figure
one.
you need an LC letter for quite a number of things.
Yeah, well, I guess we should include that.
No.
But now that we do have the national ID,
Yes.
we don't have to really go around.
No, you're
with-
right. Copies of the national ID have to be attached as well. Thank
Okay.
you. That is very good, yeah. Because then they tell all the details.
My final question to you is, what is the benefit for me for registering, besides just protecting myself, making sure the children have an inheritance?
I almost don't even know where to start. Josephine, I could speak the benefits for the next 2 hours.
I'm going to give you 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
I don't know what you can tell me in 2 minutes.
Okay, okay. 2 minutes is short, Josephine.
But they're going.
Okay, okay. You're recognized by the state that you are married. Now, the benefits which accrue from that are immense. Let me put it this way. If you're not registered, and I heard this is KIU, Makerere, and everything, if your marriage is not registered, it's the equivalent of you walking around with your certificate from your secondary school. Which school did you go to, Josephine? Okay, okay. Yeah, I'll let it. Okay. Walking around with a certificate of your school, which says this one was our student and he passed O-level very well, he got 8 out of 8. When actually, your neighbor doesn't have your record. Can you ever say that you are, that you ever sat senior 4? Can you go for any interview? Can you go to the university? Can you go for anything? You think of anything, you need to use your O-level slip. it has got to be from your name. And it's the same with marriage. It is not registered. It doesn't matter whether the Pope himself signed the certificate from the cathedral. It is as good as the certificate from the school. It does not mean legally you are wed. So that is the first benefit, that you are officially there. You can go in any court of law, you can go to anybody who is receiving. The others are the usual standard. Every day we hear Halima he has just given you the example. She cannot get out, she cannot move forward, because you cannot divorce unless you are married. And for you to be married, then you must have registered. Every day in the office we see people walking in and crying because unfortunately or fortunately, the Administrator General is 2 floors below our office. And families are always there trying to do, what do they call that? The estate, to run the estate, to get letters of probate and letters of administration. And the first thing the wife will do is to go there and say, they will tell you, go and get a certificate of marriage. So don't even cry that, you see, they have thrown me out of this land, they said it is clan land. Yes, indeed it is clan land, and you are nobody. You're just the mother of your children.
That's a difficult.
It is a terrible thing
to say you are nobody.
But that is the reality.
Okay, so there's a question for you. Are there churches that are not recognized to marry people? I know now we've moved from the customary now to the church, because so somebody was whispering in my ear and saying somebody got married 5 years ago from this place, and then when they came to URSP said we don't recognize that church.
Churches wed on behalf of God, okay? They are ordained and they have this authority, and I have seen a pastor somewhere in Zimbabwe who even has the phone number for God and things like that.
God, yes.
Yes, absolutely. And the state does not interfere in that. However, the laws of the state require that if a church wants to wed on behalf of the state, okay, you're wedding on behalf of God, and people are perfectly okay, and when they go to heaven, they will live in very nice chalets and across the river. But if you want them who are living here to benefit from state and legal resources, then you will wed on behalf of the state. And therefore you come and apply and say, I'm Church X, and these are my pastors, and the state will grant you a license. And that license is in perpetuity. You hold it forever. They will never, it is not renewable that every year. No. They give it to you once, and they will only revoke it if you did something out of the way. So you get that license, and then you bring returns for all the people you wed for heaven. You also bring returns to the state. If the church does not have a license, then it is like a school. I always go back to the UNEB story. It's like a school which does not have a UNEB number. It doesn't matter how many kids sit and what they get. If they don't have a UNEB number, well, they have not sat UNEB exams. And they may go to heaven. And the people you wed will go to heaven, which is perfectly okay. But as far as the state is concerned, if they go to the Administrator General, if you want a visa to go because this is my spouse, and I see people who are sick every day, they want to take their spouses to go to take the spouse, and the embassy will grant the visa to the sick person and refuse the spouse until they prove that they are actually spouse.
Married. So they'll need the
registration. And so if you got married in a church which is not licensed, I'm sorry, will not be able to do anything about it, because as far as the law is concerned, that church doesn't exist. So
people need to actually go to URSP and actually find out. Where do they go to find out?
Yes, you can you can check on with URSP, but you can go on the website. We are in the .com era. I may be this with a lot of gray hair, but if you go to www.ursp.go,
I didn't say that. www.ursp.go.ug.
And you will see civil registration. You will see list of licensed churches.
Follow the instructions.
And you will get there. You can check out.
All right. Halima, what do you want us to take home from this conversation? You close us off.
I would say that sensitization is crucial. It's very crucial. And we need to maybe talk to the head of the parliament, the speaker. She's not doing well. But when she gets back, we need to start from there so that she can talk to her MPs, members of the parliaments. And then it goes down, keep on going down to the level where we always go, where I meet these women. Because if Mama Halima comes to anywhere and just walk in and just say, you know what, you're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do this, they will take it as me saying.
Halima is just telling us what she knows.
What she knows. But if it comes from the above and it keeps on going down until it gets there, they will do it. It's just that in Uganda we have a thing of, oh, this is the way we have been doing this, and the way we can't change it. We don't like changes. We don't take changes lightly, you know. But it's good to change for a good cause, especially for this. And women, we are many than men now, you know, and we are the ones suffering, you know. So since we are suffering, we need someone to come and speak for us, and probably that will be the speaker to pass that.
All right. Well, and every woman that's here and listening and paying attention, we have social media now. Pass on the message. Tell your friends that if this is not registered or recognized, then there's a problem.
You have a challenge,
Thank you so much, Charles, for coming to the show, and thank you very much for bringing Halima with you.
Oh, yeah. I should be thanking her. She has stolen the show.
She has stolen it.
Absolutely.
And thank you to our studio audience for joining us and making this conversation happen. Coming up is NTV Weekend Edition.
Renew your monthly basic bouquet subscription of 18,000 shillings before it expires. Then enjoy 3 free days only on StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.